All right. Thank you for joining this TenantCloud webinar. If you have any questions during this presentation, please feel free to post them in the chat thread and we will answer your questions live at the end of this presentation. Also, if you have any questions about the best plan for your business, or you need a custom plan and you need to add team members, or you need to increase storage, or anything else that you want to add custom outside of the starter or growth plans, feel free to reach out directly to your TenantCloud sales rep. If you are not yet working with anybody at TenantCloud, feel free to email sales@tenantcloud.com and one of our team members will be happy to assist you. One of the things I want to get out of the way real quick here before we get into the main part of the demo is the gear wheel icon in the upper right corner. This is your main global settings menu. And this is where a lot of your account is going to be driven from. A lot of the information and settings that you put in here are going to power the rest of your account. So for instance, under the account settings page, this is going to be your profile. You can choose to display as a company or as an individual. You can select whether you are a landlord or a property manager. If you select that you are a property manager, that's going to enable a suite of tools regarding owners, third-party owners. So if you manage properties for third-party owners, then it is highly recommended that you get on the property manager account. This is available on the growth plan and higher. And the reason for that is because it opens up a whole new suite of tools that are available to manage those third-party owners. And we'll touch on a few of those things as we go throughout this demo, but a couple examples are you can choose to have those third-party owners have their own accounts so that when they log in, you can send them owner distributions, they can send you contributions, there's automatic invoicing, they can approve overrides on maintenance requests. So for instance, let's say they tell you that you can repair anything up to $500, but anything over that they need to approve. You have the ability to send those through the TenantCloud system. They can then choose which one they want to approve, which bid they want to approve. And you can choose to share maintenance requests with them that are coming in for their particular property. You can choose to show reports to them automatically so they don't have to bother you to access those reports, and a whole lot more. So definitely recommended if you have any third-party property management entities or property owners that you manage rental properties on behalf of, highly recommend that you be on the property manager mode, which would be the growth plan or higher. There's a bunch of other settings in here you can go through and make sure that you've got all of your account settings set up, including your Google Calendar sync, and if you want your listings to go to the Zillow group, which is Zillow, HotPads, Trulia, and a couple of other sites. The other thing you want to check is your subscription. This is where you can upgrade or downgrade and manage your cards associated with your subscription. Here you can manage your QuickBooks sync settings, your online payment settings, and your invoice and late fees, such as your grace period, your late fee settings, and a lot more. And then your online payments, you can go ahead and set that up to get and accept ACH, debit, and credit card payments. And then you can manage notifications that are coming in about your account. This is one of our recent upgrades where you have more granular control over what types of notifications you are going to get regarding notifications in your email or your feed, which your notification feed is right up here. You can see I have 161 notifications in my feed. This is just a demo account, don't worry. But you can control what notifications you receive regarding things going on in your account, and so that's very helpful. And then rental application settings, if you want to receive rental applications online, and if so, do you want to receive a rental application fee online, which you have to have a payment processor set up in order to be able to do that. Also, your terms of agreement, you can add in custom verbiage here. And you can see I've got a lot of that entered. And then you can change your scheme. So you can pretty much customize the entire online application that you have your potential or prospective tenants fill out. And so you can make certain fields optional, required. You can hide entire sections. So let's say you don't allow pets at your property. You can hide the pet fields entirely if you want to. And you have a lot of granular control. You can require how many records somebody provides. So for instance, let's say you want a total of 5 prior residence records, or you can say 1 or whatever that is. Same thing with employment and emergency contacts, references, and so on. You can also require that they attach their ID or bank statements, pay stubs, tax returns, and so on. And you can even ask custom questions. So you can ask yes or no questions, and then even if they choose yes or no, you can still require a short answer based on how they respond, or you can have them just be required to provide a short answer. And again, you can hide or show these at will. You can also delete them if you don't have any use for those questions anymore. And you can add more questions. You can add up to 50 of your own custom questions to this application. And you can attach documents that maybe you want the prospective tenant to be required to fill out in with their actual pen and paper, or to bring in to you upon the application processing, or whatever it might be. Every state, city, an area has different requirements, and so this just allows more flexibility regarding any type of document you might need the prospective tenant to be able to see, download, fill out in by hand, etc. Also, you can put in an additional custom agreement and authorization verbiage, and you can require that they have to sign the rental application upon completing it. And so there's a lot of granular control around the rental application. You want to make sure you go through and touch each of these setting fields in here, including the listing website. The listing website is where you are going to see your TenantCloud listings get populated to. So for instance, mine is mycompany.tenantcloud.com. It is just, again, a demo account. So if you click here and go to the rentals, you won't see any listed because I don't want an active rental listed for this demo account. But if I were to have done that, it would show up under the rentals tab. And so you will see a few places as we go throughout this demo where you can actually invite people with a simple link that will take them straight to a listing to view the listing and or to start an application. And you have some control over this website, this listing website, which comes with all of the different accounts. You can even do a custom website domain if you are on the business plan. If you want this, but do not necessarily need to be on the business plan for, say, the team features, then definitely reach out to the sales team. We do have a few promotions that we occasionally run where we're able to get you the custom domain on the lower plans. So just reach out to us and we'll be happy to assist you with that. You can choose the name of your subdomain. If you don't have the custom domain, you can do the subdomain. So for instance, mycompany.tenantcloud, that's what I've named it, but I can change that if I want to. And you can also play around with the website layout depending on what plan you're on. You can choose a rental page or a full company website with all of these different sections and the ability to upload banner images and logos and the whole 9 yards. You can also choose to display team members if you have team members, like I was talking about in the business plan, and you can choose to show different team members on the website. So you can also have multiple locations. So if you have various addresses throughout the state or city or across the country, you can put multiple office locations on your website as well as your social media links. A lot more is here. There's a document templates tool, which you can actually create your own document templates. We also have a lot of templates that are pre-approved for use in all 50 of the US states. And so if you want to use some of those pre-formatted templates for lease forms and the like, you're certainly welcome to do so. Otherwise, you can create your own templates and notices. And you can also create or use these landlord forms, like I was saying, that TenantCloud already provides. So you can click Create New Template. It's going to ask you if you want to copy and paste or if you want to do the Upload PDF feature, which is where you can actually upload an external document that's a PDF. So let's say you already have a lease that you already use on a regular basis. You can either copy and paste that PDF into the copy and paste tool, or you can upload the PDF version and assign the signature, initial, spaces, and so on, and just use it as is. There's also the file manager, which is pretty self-explanatory. And then, of course, there is the team management. And by the way, with the file manager, if you need additional space above and beyond what your current plan provides, then again, our sales team is more than happy to get you connected with a higher storage limit. I will say that the vast majority of users never reach or get close to exceeding their storage limit based on their plan, but some people just like to have that additional storage space just in case. So we're certainly happy to get you additional storage space if you need it. And you also have access to team management on certain plans. So again, on the business plan, we do have the ability to give you team members. And these are people that maybe it is a maintenance tech, or maybe it is a leasing agent, or maybe it is a accountant that helps you with your accounting or taxes at the end of the year, and maybe you need to give them temporary access. Whatever it might be, you have the ability to add team members and control their permissions by their role and by their property. And what I mean by that is if you click on one of these, you can see here where it allows you to say whether or not you want them to view or manage these various parts of your account. So do you want them to be able to view or manage accounting settings? Yes or no? Do you want them to be able to view and manage rental applications? Maybe you just want them to be able to view it but not manage it, so you don't want them to be able to edit or delete anything, or document templates, and so on and so forth. So you have a lot of granular control over what you allow each of your individual team members to do. So for instance, if this person were a maintenance tech, maybe the only thing you want them to be able to handle is maintenance requests. So you would disable everything else on the account and only enable the option for maintenance requests. And so your maintenance tech would be limited to doing those things. And so there's, again, a lot of control around this. There's more than just this. You also have the ability to view the timeline of what's taken place with this team member. If this team member has deleted anything in their account, if they've edited, added, all that good stuff. Anything really important is going to be in their activity history. Of course, I don't have any in this particular one because it's, again, a demo account and they're pending. They haven't accepted my request to be added as a team member. You can also resend the invitation. So if they haven't received it, you can resend it. It'll get sent back to their email address that they are setting up this account with, and they'll be prompted to create an account. In addition, you also have the ability to choose which properties each of these people are able to access. So let's say, for instance, you have 100 rental properties, but this particular team member only needs to manage 20 or 30 or 50 of them. So you can go through here and select who needs access to this particular property. So you can say, I don't need any of these people to have access. I just need these two people. And you can control that based on every single property in your portfolio. So again, team member control is a really great feature. You can also message team members through here. So you can message your team, you can message tenants, service pros, owners, and you can individually have maintenance request chats per maintenance request and the property message board, which again is on the growth plan or higher, where you can message your entire property. But for the team function, for any team members that are active, I only have one out of all the ones that I've added, only one have I activated so far, but you can chat with that team member. It saves the entire chat and you can print it out at any time should you need to. And you can share attachments and all kinds of stuff. You can also schedule your team members to specific tasks and reminders on the calendar. You can also assign them to maintenance requests. So there's, again, a whole lot of control and a lot of features and functionality that covers the whole team aspect. And at any time, you can pull away those permissions. So again, for instance, we were talking about maybe it's an accountant that only needs it for a month or two out of the year. You can give them temporary access and then revoke that access and then give it back to them again the next year when you have to get back into doing your taxes again. There's the maintenance settings, which again, some of this might not make sense at the moment, but these are settings. When you share a maintenance request to a service provider, you can choose to show the assigned tenant on the maintenance request to the service provider. So for instance, if you had a plumbing issue that you created a maintenance ticket for and you sent this to a service pro who is a plumber, you could opt to display the email address, phone number, and name of the tenant so that the service provider could then reach out directly instead of having to go through you to coordinate visiting that property to check on whatever issue it is. So there's a lot of privacy settings here. Communication settings automatically create a new message channel every time there's a new maintenance request. So that's what I was just showing you up here under the chat board where it was a maintenance request chat. Every time a new maintenance request comes in, you can actually chat with anybody connected or associated with that maintenance request. So if you do assign a service provider or the tenant submits it, so the tenant would automatically be associated with that maintenance request, you could actually message the tenant or the service pro directly through that chat that's associated with that maintenance request. So all of the communication stays in one spot, which makes it a lot easier for following up on maintenance issues instead of having a maintenance ticket and then communicating through email or phone or text and not remembering who said what. Everything can be done inside of this TC Messenger and tracked accordingly. And so again, there's a lot of control here. You can do automatic owner sharing, so you can automatically choose to share maintenance requests with certain owners for their respective properties. You can auto assign maintenance requests to a particular team member or service provider. If, let's say, you have a maintenance supervisor and that maintenance supervisor is responsible for all incoming maintenance requests, you can choose to auto assign it to that maintenance supervisor so that that happens seamlessly without you needing to do it manually each time. And review requests that were assigned to service pros from your contacts. You can review all maintenance requests that do come in that are assigned to that service pro. So this is, as you can see, a lot of the engine that runs a lot of the stuff that's going to happen inside of your account. So when maintenance requests come in, like we were just talking about, for contacts with owners, a lot of the settings that control the owners is going to be through that settings menu and all kinds of stuff. So accounting is all going to be done through the main settings menu. You need to set up your payment processor in the main settings menu and so on and so forth. So that being said, I know that was probably a lot, but it just gives you some insight into the amount of tools that you can put to use. Now, you don't have to use all those tools. It's just important that the tools that you are using are set to the proper settings. So you want to go through and touch each of those settings menus just to make sure that your account is set up for your particular use case. Now, when you first log into your TenantCloud account, you're going to see this main dashboard. And you can click and drag and drop these widgets in different places, and it'll automatically save wherever you moved that widget to for the next time. So however you have arranged your dashboard, it'll automatically save like that every time you log in the future. So you can put the widgets and the information that you need on a regular daily basis at the forefront and everything else down at the bottom, or you can even organize your dashboard and just hide any widgets that you don't find useful or you don't need to be on your dashboard at all. If you do need support at any point, there's going to be a learning curve for every platform that you use. It does not matter if it is an enterprise solution or a solution like TenantCloud and you only have 20 units or you have 200 units or whatever it might be. There's always going to be a learning curve with every software. And so our support team is available to assist you. We also have a help center, which is available right here. And so when you click on that Visit Help Center button, it's going to take you to this page, and it's sorted by 4 tabs. So there's actually a help center for each type of contact. So there's a help center for your tenants, there's a help center for your service providers, and there's a help center for your owners and for you. And so you can search by keyword, or you can go according to these subcategories, or you can even go down here to view video tutorials. You can view what are some of the top articles right now, and you can create a support ticket. You can give our phone support team or our sales team a call. And if you have a sale inquiry, you can also email us, and you can also send email to support@tenantcloud.com. And if we do have any team members available for our instant chat support, there will be a button down here showing that someone is available to help you via instant chat as well. So you can contact us through submitting a ticket, through phone, through email, and through phone call. And when you do submit a ticket, there's 2 types of tickets. One is you need support, or 2 is you have an idea. And this one is actually really important because Our product management team takes your feedback, our user feedback, very seriously. In fact, I believe that the last report that was issued for releases done in a year, something like over 70% of all improvements and new features in the system were a direct result of user feedback putting in idea tickets. So if you're talking to a representative at any point, or you think of something that you want to let us know about that you think would be a great idea or a great addition to the software, definitely put in the idea ticket here and tell us all about it. Our product management team looks at every single one of those tickets that comes through, and they all get prioritized based on multiple factors, but one of them being how many people are requesting that thing. So definitely submit your ideas. Now we're going to go through the natural progression of things. Typically, when you're using software, one of the key things is you want to keep your rentals occupied, right? So you would want to view your listed or unlisted. You would go to your unlisted, and let's just say that we want to list a rental property. So we'll go ahead and click on this one. I think this one should be good for us to do. We'll do free ILS or listing website. Again, you can do Rentler, Apartments.com, Realtor, Zillow Group, and then each of these is going to syndicate out to their own individual networks. But we'll do listing website because this is a demo account. We don't want to send a fake property out to those listing sites. You'll just need to confirm that everything from the previous time that you listed it is still accurate. If so, just keep clicking next. You can control the amenities. If you've added new amenities or new property features, you'll want to get those updated. And you want to make sure that the photos are accurate. So you want to make sure your cover photo is the best one that represents your property in the best light, because that's going to be the number one photo that's get displayed on all of the listing websites that this gets syndicated out to. And you can update your gallery photos. If everything's good, you click next. Your marketing description, and you can put in a YouTube video. So if you have some type of a tour video or whatever, you can do that there. You can click next, and this is going to ask you for the security deposit, any amounts refundable, and the date that this particular rental is going to be available, what the max lease duration and minimum lease duration is, whether or not you offer month to month out of the gate on this rental property, and any additional leasing details if necessary. Do you allow pets in the rental property, yes or no? In this particular case, we'll click yes, and it'll ask, what type do we allow? Small dogs, large dogs, cats, any pet policies or addendums if necessary. Is there a pet deposit? If so, what is that amount? And is there a monthly pet rent? We're going to say yes, there is a pet rent. And you want to make sure that your contact information is all accurate. If you want your contact phone number displayed on your free listing website, you would click yes, and it'll display that contact number on your free TenantCloud listing website. Otherwise, it will not. And then we can go ahead and click submit listing, and it's going to say, great, you have accomplished that, and you can list another property or view listing. We'll go ahead and view it just to make sure that everything is accurate. We can also click view to view on website. And so that'll open up a new tab, and this is going to show you that listing on the page. Now, any prospective tenants are now going to be able to send you a message or schedule a tour. And if I were accepting rental applications online, there would also be a little button here that says apply online, and they would be able to get started. But on my account, it's a demo account. I don't allow online applications. So you just scroll through here and make sure all the information is accurate, everything's good, looks like everything's good. And so now you're probably going to start getting applications or leads in from prospective tenants. So those are going to come into your leads tab. And you can see here, I've got a couple of sample leads that have come in. So I can click here and view the profile for that lead. And this is our little CRM here, which is a very robust CRM for being a relatively new feature, but we've gotten a lot of feedback since it was originally released, and we've already introduced new improvements to it. So one of those recent improvements is you can actually now send text messages directly to the leads instead of having to use your personal or office line. You can actually send a text message directly through the TenantCloud system. They're going to get it on whatever phone number they provided on the application or lead information form that they filled out. And so you can communicate with them through here. You can also create individual logs, tasks, or notes, and those are going to show up here. And then, of course, you have your history here showing what's been done with this prospective tenant so far. And you can, of course, change the status of this lead as well, whether it's new, working, closed, or you can delete it or even edit it. And you can also click invite to apply. So If I were to allow online applications, which again, I don't on this demo account, I could select the specific property that they are interested in applying for, and it would send them a direct link to start the application. And I would click send invitation. It would go to their email address and they would start that application, which would then come into the applications tab right here. Once it comes in as an application, which I don't have any new, so we'll just pull up one of these old ones here. It's going to have all of the information on here that I required that they complete at the time that they did the application. So remember that application form that I was showing you, you have complete customization over. They would be able to fill this out, and I would then have the option. There's actually a few options. One, I could have required that they pay an application fee up front at the time that they did the application. So I could charge them whatever I want, $50, $100, $35, whatever it is. And then I would have a chance to pre-screen this. And then if I want to run the report, I would then take that 35 or 50 or 100 or whatever they paid me, and then I would choose which report I want to run on them, and I would say that I am going to pay for the report because I already collected the application fee from them. Alternatively, what you could do is you can also opt to have them purchase the screening at the time that they apply. So you would actually get the screening results simultaneously as soon as the application comes through from them. And some landlords prefer to do that, and some do not. So it's just another way that the TenantCloud system provides flexibility for however you need to operate it with your company or to follow the guidelines and laws in your state or city. Alternatively, there's a third option. You can also not have them pay anything at the time, or maybe you want them to just pay an admin fee of some sort, but they're responsible for paying the application, and you select which one you want them to pay for. So you want them to do a full check, and you click the person who's going to pay is going to be the applicant. And then they're going to confirm your information because that's required by the Fair Credit Reporting Act, of course. And then you can send this request for them to pay that $39 directly for the screening. And you would just put in their email address and this would send that to them. They would get an email and a system notification in their alerts in their applicant account requesting that they complete this application and start request this screening and complete the screening request. And then once you get that back, it's going to come back here, and this bar, instead of looking like this, will actually now have the results once that screening result is done. Screening results are generally going to be very fast. It depends on the applicant, of course, but some could be a couple of minutes, some could be a couple hours, and some could be a couple days. It just depends on the tenant and how much data has to be acquired for their background, but it's usually pretty instantaneous. You can also view the timeline here. So you're going to notice this little timeline icon throughout the TenantCloud system. Anywhere you see that, that means that there is a timeline you can view. And so you can see any interactions that have taken place in the system. You can also put in custom notes. You can even assign this. Again, remember team members. You can assign a team member to a particular note or a task, or maybe a particular team member is putting this in and they want to say that they were the one who put this note in or whatever. You can print it out, and then anywhere you see this 3-dot actions menu, that means that you have the ability to access actions regarding that particular thing that you were looking at. In this particular case, you can edit it, decline the application, move in the applicant, archive applicant, or export it. And once you've made a decision of moving in, declining, or whatever, you do have the option to delete the applicant at that point. Now, once you have approved this applicant and they're ready to move in, it's pretty simple. You just click Move In Applicant. So you had a vacant unit, you listed it, you started getting leads, and so those leads came through the CRM. You got someone to apply, you closed them on the sale, they put in an application, you screened them, and now you're ready to move them in. So you can see how the system, again, is from start to finish is an end-to-end solution. From the time that you need to do that to the time that you move them in, start collecting rent, need to follow up on maintenance requests, and you need to collect rent and collect late fees and have an accounting system in place, and you need to send the owner distributions, or you need to collect contributions and all that good stuff. It's all in the TenantCloud system. So we're going to continue with this process. You have the option to attach a signed agreement. Let's say you had them, they're old school, or maybe your property is old school, or maybe your city or state requires that you have some type of physical thing signed. You can certainly do that. or you can do send to sign agreement and just click get started. It's going to walk you right into the process. Now, this is pre-filling this information because this is the information that this particular applicant filled out. They filled out an application for this Grove Street property, but I can change it if I want to. It doesn't matter what property they applied for. I can always change it at any point. The system comes up with an automatic numbering system for the leases, but again, if you have your own custom one, you can change that here as well. You can see that the tenant is already pre-filled. I can add in a co-tenant, and it says that these lease and transactions will automatically be shared with the tenant because, again, I'm connected with this tenant in TenantCloud, which I'll show you what that means in a little bit. Here, we get to select the rent and the first invoice date. So we're going to say that the first invoice date is actually going to be February 1st, and it's going to be in the amount of $1,000. And because they're actually going to be moving in on, I believe it said the 4th, we're going to say that on the 4th, there's a one-time prorate of, let's just say, no, that wouldn't be right. It'd be more like somewhere 750, 800, something like that. So we would put in the prorate and we would go ahead and click next, unless there's other stuff we want to add, like maybe there's recurring pet rent. So pet rent, and we want to make it recurring monthly. And we want that to also start on the same date as the lease. And maybe we want to charge a prorate for that as well. We can do that too. We can just keep clicking add transaction and add as many of these as we want, as well as security deposits we want to charge associated with the lease. Click next step and we continue on our way. Remember that these late fee settings and grace period settings were automatically done here. Now that information is automatically pre-filling so that I don't have to edit this every single time I do a lease. Now, it's still here in the event that maybe you have different properties that have different policies, so you still do have that flexibility to edit it on an individual lease basis, but in general, it's powered from your global settings menu that we went over at the beginning of this webinar. The management fee is what you would charge for the first month's rent and the ongoing rent. Now, the reason that there are two separate boxes is because in a lot of markets, a lot of property managers use locators typically, and a lot of property management agreements with third-party owners often say that they get paid a higher amount anyway for the first month. So if they find a tenant for that owner, that tenant moves in, they might have in their agreement that they get paid 50% upfront for the first month's rent and then 1% ongoing, or whatever the contract states. In addition, a lot of markets use locators, like I was saying, and so locators typically get paid a commission for the same reason. They bring qualified tenants to a rental property, they get approved, their tenant moves in, that locator or that apartment rental locator or real estate agent gets paid a commission. And so that might be 20%, might be 50, might even be 100 or higher. Just depends on the market. So you have the option to bill the owner for whatever that commission percentage is for the first month's rent. Regardless, this always has to be filled in if you want to start collecting rent payment commissions on the first month that a tenant moves in. Even if you don't have any special commission percentages, then you would just put in the same amount that each of the subsequent months will charge as well. You can designate who is responsible for which utilities, property manager or tenant. And once you've set all of that stuff in place, you click next step. Now keep in mind that doesn't matter. It doesn't override the lease. The lease, of course, verbiage would state what the tenant is responsible for, but that's just a helpful thing that will show up on their account that would say, hey, just a reminder, this is what you're responsible for. The next tab that's going to display is the insurance tab. And this is, again, something else in the TenantCloud system that allows you to make your tenants provide you with renter's insurance if that is something that you require as a part of your leases. And so when they get to the part of e-signing the lease in TenantCloud, it's going to say, hey, do you have renter's insurance? If not, you can purchase renter's insurance right here. Or if you already have it, you can upload it. And so then they would just upload it if they already have it. If they don't have it, they could get a free quote and they could purchase it right there in the TenantCloud system. You would automatically be added as an interested party so that anytime the tenant cancels a policy or makes any changes or even removes you as an interested party, you would get notified about those changes because of course, you are an interested party on the policy. If you don't want to require it, you would simply click no, and it will not force the tenant to provide or purchase renter's insurance when they're e-signing the lease, but it's generally recommended that you do require renter's insurance, and this is just an easy way to make sure that the tenant does provide you with some sort of proof of renter's insurance. So we'll go ahead and click next step. And this is the final tab of the move-in process. And you'll notice that throughout the TenantCloud system, there's often going to be these 2, 3, 5, whatever steps across the top of various tasks that you do in the system. And it really helps to eliminate a lot of human error, and it really won't let you proceed until you've done everything that you need to do in the previous tab. So it's really helpful to make sure that you reduce errors as much as possible. Now here, it's going to say, do you want to include lease agreements? And in this case, yes, we do. We want to include agreements. So we're going to say the residential lease agreement, and we can add another one, and we can say, okay, cool. Well, we also want to put a pet addendum in. And again, these lease documents, we covered that underneath this global settings menu under the document templates tool, where you can use our pre-approved templates for various things, or you can add your own. And that's where all this is coming from. So you remember in these previous tabs, we already told the system who the tenant was, how much they were paying, what their security deposit was, what the grace period was, what their late fees were, is insurance required, all that stuff. And so it's pre-filling all these green autofill element tags with that information that we just went through and told the system about this tenant. And so you don't have to manually do this every time you're sending a lease to a tenant. The system's going to automatically pre-fill all this in on the forms. And if you need to add, let's say you forgot to add something on this form, you can just pull in an autofill element tag from this menu, and you can pull in whatever automatic information you need to pull into this form at the last minute. You can even put in signature, initials, date, sign, text box fields if you want to, or you can use the standard default positions for e-signatures, because when you're creating this document template under the document templates tool, you can tell the system, regardless of whether or not you assign other signature or initial spots, that you want the signatures at the bottom of the document. So once you are happy with it, you can also upload private attachments. You can upload shared attachments. These would be attachments that the tenant would be able to see. These would be attachments that the tenant can't see, but they're still associated with the lease that you want to be able to reference back to at any point in the future. So this might be a scenario where maybe you are managing for a third-party owner and you did a screening on an applicant and it was kind of in the gray area. You weren't sure if you should approve them or not. So you reached out to the owner, because the owner doesn't ever want you to decline somebody in a gray area without consulting with them first. And they reach back out and say, yeah, go ahead and approve them. I'm okay with whatever came up on the report. And so you could save that email thread and upload it as an attachment, as a private attachment. The tenant wouldn't see it, but in the event that the tenant defaults in the future, you can go back to the owner and be like, no, you approved them, not me. Here's the email thread associated with this lease. So that's just something I come up with off the top of my head. Of course, there's probably 100 other scenarios that would play out where this might be useful, but it's there if you need it. So the last step would be to click send to sign, and this is going to send this lease agreement to the tenant to sign it. They will get an email notification as well as a system notification telling them, hey, landlord so-and-so has sent this document to you to sign. It's going to show you here that there are two things they need to do. They need to provide renter's insurance, and they need to e-sign the agreement. It shows you that it's already shared, and it says pending. Now, remember when I said at the beginning of creating that lease that the system was automatically going to share it with the tenant because I was already connected with them? These two little green circles next to the tenant's name in the TenantCloud system are going to show you anytime you're connected with an owner, a service provider, or a tenant. And all that means is that when you added them into your account, you sent them a connection request, which is basically just an email with a link. They click that, and in their account, it says, hey, property manager so-and-so wants to connect with you. And they can approve or decline that connection. And when they approve it, it's essentially them saying, yes, I know this person. I'm affiliated with this person, with this property management company. I know who they are. And it then allows you to share things like leases and invoices and maintenance requests and so on and so forth. Whatever information needs to be conducted, business needs to be conducted through the TenantCloud system, can now happen because you have that secure connection. And you'll see that under the owners tab and under the service providers tab and all of that. So you can see the little connected signs, whereas this one is not connected. Now, once the tenant is moved in, the system is automatically going to start billing that tenant with all of the invoices associated with the lease. So you told the system that the lease is $1,000 a month and the late fee is $10, and then it's $5 per day after that. And whatever other information you told the system about that tenant in that lease, the system's going to automatically start doing all of that for you. Now, again, this is a demo account, so none of these invoices are going to make sense because technically this tenant owes me $104,000. They don't. But yours will look a lot different. You're going to be recording things as paid. If they pay you manually, if they pay it through the TenantCloud system, it'll be automatically marked as paid. It'll already assign the payments and send the money automatically to the correct bank accounts. And all of that stuff is just going to be happening automatically without you even having to think about it. There's a lot of other functionality in here. Again, this little timeline icon shows you any activity that you've ever had with this tenant, any activity on their account, any invoices that have been generated, edited, deleted, modified, whatever is all going to be there. And so there's, again, a lot of other functionality that we don't have a lot of time to go through each and every one of those things. But suffice it to say, you have a lot of controls and features and functionality in here, and a lot of it is automated. Owners, this is one of the things I was telling you about, where you can choose to share certain reports with the owners. So any properties that they are responsible for that you've assigned to them in the system that you manage on their behalf, you can go in and say, cool, well, I want them to be able to access this report, or I want to hide this report, and so on and so forth. And that way, one of the biggest time sucks for any property manager or anybody managing rental properties on behalf of third-party owners is those board meetings, investor meetings, refinances. Anytime they're looking or they have an interested buyer in their property, they've got to get all these documents in order for those people, for the bank, for the potential buyer. And most of the time they're contacting you because they don't have access to that stuff. And so what TenantCloud does is allows you to decide what reports they get to see. And these reports are live. So when they log into their account, they will be able to go and access this stuff themselves. So instead of them having to contact you in the future and have you drop everything you're doing when they have this last minute refinance, or their accountant contacts them and says, hey, I need this piece of information for the property, I don't have it, and then they contact you, and again, you got to drop everything you're doing and get this information, download it, edit it in Excel or whatever you got to do, and then send it to them via email, and then make sure that they got it. They can just do all of that in the TenantCloud system now. And so you have control over which reports they can and cannot see. You can also send them owner agreements, just like you sent the tenant a little bit ago. A lease agreement, you can actually send owner agreements as well. You can require e-signatures. You can add addendums, the whole 9 yards. It's all in here. And of course, you have the full accounting functionality for owners as well. And you can view their profile and all that good stuff. You can do 1099s, and you can also view the property owner statement, all of that stuff. Service pros, a lot of the same functionality. You can also send them things like the 1099. You can view the provider statement report. You can view your transaction history with them. You have this whole accounting suite of tools with them. You can assign them to maintenance requests. So any service provider in your system, you can assign them to a maintenance request, or let's say it's not even a regular service provider. Let's just say it's a store. Let's say it's Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart or wherever, and you go and buy supplies. You can actually record that as an expense by simply adding them as a service provider in the system, and you can just put the invoice in saying that you paid this service provider or this store or whatever X amount of dollars for X property and on X date, and you can attach receipts and the whole 9 yards. So again, a lot of functionality here around that. Now, you have done all of this stuff. You have listed the rental. You've got these leads coming in. You followed up on the CRM. You got the applications, you screened them, you picked the best applicant or the first approved applicant, you moved them in the TenantCloud system, you had them e-sign, the system started doing all of this work for you, automating the entire accounting side of things, charging them their invoices and late fees and calculating grace periods, and it also starts creating these owner distribution invoices automatically for you because you can set that up on the property level. You can set up the automatic invoicing for owners. You can even assign ownership to owners. And so the system is going to automatically create these owner distribution invoices and these management fee invoices and renewal fee invoices and service fee invoices. Anything that you need the system to do, you can pretty much tell the system to do. And so it's automating all this work for you, which is awesome and it's great. You're sending money to all these different places. You're collecting money. Now you need it to come out in reports. And so that is where their reports functionality comes into play. And there are a total of 18 different reports. And then there's one called a rentability report. And then there are two calculators, a depreciation tracker and an amortization tracker, which are really handy calculators to use to give you some helpful information. But all of these other reports are going to be reports that are pulling data out of your TenantCloud site. And so you're going to be able to get granular information on everything that's been taking place in your account, from maintenance requests to property expenses to property income, profit and loss statements, operating statements, rent roll reports, tax prep reports, which you can literally print this off and hand it to your accountant and to be able to do your Schedule E form, your property statement, your general expense, general income if you have a property management entity that you need to track general expenses and income for, a deposit summary report, all of that information. And you can even get what's called a rentability report, where you can keep tabs on your market to see what your competitors are doing and if you are priced appropriately for your rental property in your area. So basically it takes a look at your local market and says, okay, you have a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet in this neighborhood. Let's see what other properties that are similar to yours are currently renting for in your market and whether or not you're within the range of other properties. And so it just gives you a sense to make sure that you know whether or not you're leaving money on the table or not. If you're asking too little or too much, and maybe if you're asking too much, maybe that's why your rental property is sitting on the market a little bit longer than other rental properties in your area. So it's a really helpful report that really helps narrow down how to properly position your rental in your local marketplace. The other big tool in the TenantCloud system, aside from everything else we've talked about, is the maintenance request system. And so you can view a couple different ways. You can view a detailed view or a list view. And you can view these different requests in here. So you can also look at it in a request board format. So if you want to look at it as new or in progress, in review, resolved, or canceled, these are all your maintenance requests. My preference is the requests board. I believe this starts on the growth plan or higher, but the requests board just makes it really streamlined and easier to understand and monitor what's going on with your properties. Especially the more properties you have, the nicer this board becomes. It's kind of like a Kanban board type style thing where you can view the new maintenance requests, anything you have in progress, anything you've got in review, stuff that's been resolved or maybe even canceled. And so you or your tenants can submit these maintenance requests. And there's a lot of control here. Again, we've already touched on it a little bit, but one of them is you can actually find local professional service providers in your market to handle maintenance requests for you. So let's say you put in a maintenance request that is a little bit of a heavier lift than what you're normally capable of taking on with your internal maintenance team or your local handyman, and you need to hire a bigger contractor. You can see if there are any other service providers in your market that have a service provider account on the TenantCloud system and request a quote from them for the thing that you need taken care of. Alternatively, if you have a maintenance request that has come in and you have your own service provider you can use for it, or an internal maintenance tech or somebody on your team that can handle this thing, you can just assign it to them and the system is going to share it with that service provider or team member, and they're going to get notified that you did that so that they can then go ahead and start taking over that maintenance request and getting it, the issue taken care of. It's also going to have tenant information. So if there's an alarm code, do they have pets? And if they submitted it, they may have put in a couple different times that work best for them. And other information you can put in, like, did you use materials? So if your maintenance tech used materials out of your storage shop, if they had to replace equipment or use equipment or had to rent equipment, they can put that information in here. Now, the equipment is a little bit different than what you might think of. If they rented it, they'd probably put that under material. If they put in add equipment, this is typically anything that maintenance request was associated with. So, for instance, let's say it was a HVAC system that they had to go out and put like Freon or something in, whatever coolant they use these days. They could go ahead and select that it was the HVAC system. So they could click here and select that that's what it was. Now, if there isn't any equipment associated with this particular property, they can always add equipment as well. So they can go to the property, they can add in equipment on the property level. You can pretty much add any equipment that you want to add for the property. You could add HVAC systems, you can add stoves, you can add water heaters, you can do whatever, you can add whatever you want. And it really helps you keep track of how many times something has been serviced. So for instance, we're going to go ahead and add this and say that this maintenance request was associated with this AC condenser. And when I click on that, it's going to take me into that equipment tab and give me all the information on that piece of equipment because I previously entered this for the property. It gives me the width, the height, the depth, the color. It'll also give me any warranty information under the attachments if I attached a physical warranty on there, and general information, the model number. All of that information is going to be here. You might even put in like the type of coolant that this particular unit uses. And you can see the maintenance history associated with this particular piece of equipment. So you can see that I've serviced this equipment quite a bit. And you can click through to view the details of each of these maintenance requests associated with this HVAC unit. So this would tell me in real life that if I've serviced this unit this many times, it's probably costing me more money than it's worth, especially if it's out of warranty. So I might want to go ahead and replace it. And I have all the information I need in order to replace it with an exact type replacement. So again, there's a lot of really cool features that are in the system as well that may not pop out at you right away, but they're definitely here in the system, and you'll encounter them as you go through and you're using different tools in the TenantCloud system. And then, of course, you can put in transactions. So if you need to collect money from the tenant, you can charge the tenant for any damages that maybe they didn't change the AC filter, so you need to charge them because they're damaging your AC unit. And so you can bill the tenant and create an invoice for that associated with this maintenance request. Or maybe there's just an expense, or maybe both of those things. You're billing the tenant and you have an expense, so you have to record the expense as well associated with it. So you can put in all of those, and it's going to be tied into this maintenance request. It'll also show up under your main accounting tab. And then, of course, you can add attachments and things to this. And again, timeline icon, you can view the history associated with this maintenance request. And if you had shared this with a service provider or a tenant was associated with this maintenance request, you'd also be able to chat with them on a designated chat thread. So that pretty much wraps up this TenantCloud webinar. I know that is a lot of information to take in, and trust me, there's a lot more that we could go over. But the TenantCloud system is what we like to call an end-to-end property management system, where no matter what it is that you need to do with your property management company, or if you're a DIY landlord and you manage a few rentals, it has all the tools that you need it to, and it can be as sophisticated and as robust or as simple as you need it to be. You don't have to use all of these different tools, but they're there if you need to, and they're there to help you scale up if you're planning on growing your business in the future, or if you're not and you just manage 5 units and that's all you're going to manage, and that's great as well. The system is flexible. It has that flexibility, and it's got the tools if you need it to be bigger than what it is currently for you. So Again, there's a learning curve with any property management software. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to support. If you would like to chat with our sales team, if you're not working with a sales representative already, feel free to email sales@tenantcloud.com, and we're certainly happy to get you connected with any of the upgrades that you might want to take advantage of, whether that's a custom domain, adding team members, increasing storage, any of that stuff at all. We're happy to talk with you about it, about your account. And otherwise, we will look forward to seeing you on the TenantCloud platform, and we're going to answer your questions live right now.